What do you all do when faced with the unknown? Really, think about it. What do you do when you interface with something you don't understand, something that's potentially scary that doesn't make sense to you? Do you turn your back on it, run the other way? Or do you face it head on to understand it, knowing that this very unknown, scary thing could change the very course of your life? If you're like me, you don't just turn your back on the unknown, you run towards it. This scenario played out roughly 1 year ago when I heard about a product that could turn out written copy with a very simple prompt. My curiosity activated. I had to know, was this product any good? So I went to copy.ai and thought, well, I'm working on a press release for a conference I'm hosting in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. Let's see what I can get. So I went to copy.ai. I said, write a press release in a business tone about this conference. Click. I was astonished. What came back to me in a few moments was incredible. It was a very workable draft that I was able to then use and put on the wire to promote my activities. I knew at that very moment that this was something huge. I immediately brought it back to my agency, Man of the World Media, and started implementing generative AI into every flow, seeing what it was good at, seeing where it had shortcomings, but ensuring that I could use it to do everything in our marketing activities. I didn't stop there. I heard about another product called DALL-E 2, with just a simple prompt, could turn out amazing visual assets. So again, my curiosity activated. I had to know, was it any good? And it was amazing. So I continued to prompt it and use these visual assets across all of our business activities. Now, let's get this straight. I'm a marketer, I'm a writer, I run a communications agency, and I'm using this product that could potentially put my agency out of business. But I saw the potential of this technology, generative AI, so much so that I wrote an article for VentureBeat, because what I felt and saw and experienced was that this was the magic potion that marketers everywhere, especially the small ones, could use to punch above their weight class and compete at a higher level. So while this article captured the ripples in the water of what generative AI could do, well, the tsunami hit. And ChatGPT was launched on November 30th and forever changed how we do business everywhere. Raise your hands in the room if you're the marketers. Accountants, lawyers, VCs. Okay, we know where to find you later. If you think that generative AI is just changing the creative side of the house, well, I've got news for you. Generative AI is changing everything. So when you think about your businesses, well, what is it going to change? Generative AI, you have to think about in two big ways. What can it help augment in your business, and what can it add that didn't exist? McKinsey just put out a report that generative AI will add $4.4 trillion to the economy by 2030. Think of it as a lot of room for you to change your businesses and grow into that new, very big pie. How will that affect the enterprise space directly to your businesses? Well, Harvard just put out a report hot off the press where they conducted the largest enterprise study, and they followed 800 consultants from Boston Consulting Group to measure their productivity using generative AI. And they gave them one tool, GPT-4. What they found was utterly amazing. Across the board, generative AI added 40% more productivity across all 800 consultants. But that's not the best part. The best part is that the consultants who were already at the top, well, sure, they received a little bump of productivity. But it was the consultants that started out down here, they received, on average, 43% more productivity. Think about that. All of a sudden, the consultants here and the consultants here were almost equal. So think about that for you and your business. Generative AI, and in this case, one tool can completely level up your productivity, not even to mention your creativity. So, how are you going to implement it in your businesses, in your jobs, and everything that you do? I mentioned that generative AI you have to think about in two main ways to start. What processes can it help augment? So think about what you're already good at. In our case, we're writers. We're great writers, but we like to use generative AI to just kind of help the creative process. But the second place, of course, is to think about when you don't yet offer. What can you add to your company that never existed before? And then trickle that down into four main activities. Number one, the creative process, right? Nobody likes staring at a blank page as much as a writer. So I can imagine for the rest of you it's the same. So that initial creative phase in anything, in any business activity you're doing. The second part is taking large sums of data and running analytics on it. So that's why I called out the lawyers and the accountants, because generative AI and large language models can actually synthesize huge amounts of data and spin out some very compelling reports. But one key there is to make sure that these large language models are seeded with your company's data to ensure that they don't hallucinate, or better said, they tell the truth. The third activity that generative AI can do is spin out copy at a very fast and ferocious pace. Anytime you have blog posts or social media, generative AI is your best friend. And the fourth place, think about all those repetitive tasks we all do. Who's written the 50th email of the day and would rather do anything else? I know I have. Apparently no one else does. But think about those activities that you need to give your best, even at the end. Well, I'll tell you what, generative AI doesn't get empathy fatigue. So if you can follow all those pathways and make sure generative AI says what you want it to, it can churn out the 50th email with the same empathy as the first one you sent. So we've been using generative AI and of the world media across everything we do, from writing to creative to visual. So I want you all to think about a process that you're working on now. Whether it's a new product, a pitch deck, maybe you're pitching VCs, a new company, you're launching something brand new, anything you're working on. I'm going to show you how to create a film. A film takes into account all of these processes, from market research and segmentation, to creative brainstorming, to writing, to visuals, to music, to language. So for the sake of this, follow me as we create a film. So I knew I was coming to Antigua, Guatemala. It's great to be back after 20 years, by the way. It's lovely. I knew I was coming here, so I started to brainstorm. What kind of film could I create at the center of, or at the intersection of technology, AI, and Mayan history? So I fed these prompts into GPT-4 and started to get all these very cool ideas. But it doesn't just stop at the brainstorming. I strung together all of these prompts as it started to get more and more and build, and I created shot lists. I created character development. I created an opening act. It literally created an entire entry into film creation. And I'll tell you what, Man of the World Media and Moso Studio, we've never made a film, but here we are. And then I took what GPT-4 created and I brought it to Midjourney. Now, Midjourney is a generative AI tool that with a simple prompt can create some of the most stunning visuals I've ever seen. It is such a treat to work with that product. So I took all the things that I created on the written side and brought it to Midjourney. And then from Midjourney, I brought it to other generative AI products that take these static images and make them not static so that mouths could move. Backgrounds could become living. I then added voiceovers using generative AI, and I even created a score, music that I own, that I created using generative AI. So think of that entire process with anything you're working on in your business. Now, there is a short film that I created, special for today, but before I do, I'd like to be able to share all of this with you. So if anybody cares to, you can take your phone out and find me on Instagram, Peter Weltman, and I would be thrilled to share all of the tools that I use to create this, as well as we're using generative AI to record this talk and make a perfect transcription and analysis of what I said, so you can be empowered to use it too. So without further ado, the weaving algorithm of Michel.
There remains one riddle that the mightiest of machines and researchers can't decode. The ancient patterns and rhythms of our past. My ancestors have always been there for me. Now they'll help me decode this algorithm.
Your Mayan history will guide you.
Artificial intelligence is at the pinnacle of technological evolution.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I asked you in the beginning, and I will ask you again, all of you entrepreneurs and innovators who made your way to the mountains in Antigua, Guatemala, when everybody looked at you crazy when you said you were going to an entrepreneurship conference in the middle of Guatemala. I ask you again, when you are faced with the unknown, do you harness its power or fear its potential? I'm here to empower and implore you to use generative AI to create the greatest impact you can, to tell your stories bigger, better than ever before, create more, create better, create